The 1945 abandoned house mystery, why 9 people were found frozen in terror. If you think every mystery has an answer, this one will change your mind. Because what happened in a forgotten corner of Eastern Europe in the winter of 1945, an incident buried so deep in classified archives that even top researchers could not agree on a single explanation, remains one of the most chilling events ever recorded. And to this day, every expert who reviewed the case admitted one thing: whatever those 9 people saw, no human was meant to witness. The official record lists it as archive file R451129, labeled simply unauthorized incident, do not disclose. But the story itself begins on December 3, 1945, when a brutal snowstorm swept across a remote village near the Ural forests. Temperatures dropped to -22. Visibility was almost zero, and even the locals who were used to harsh winters stayed locked inside their homes. That night, a wandering supply crew reported an old abandoned house sitting at the edge of the frozen woods. The building was not listed on any map, and according to the villagers who had lived there all their lives, no one had seen a single light footprint or sign of life around it for decades. It was just there, forgotten, quiet, waiting. When authorities finally entered the house around 6:14 in the morning, their lanterns revealed a scene that should have been impossible. 9 individuals lay scattered throughout the house in eerie, unnatural positions, each one frozen mid-movement, as if they had all collapsed at the exact same moment. Some appeared to be reaching toward the windows, some toward the door. One had collapsed halfway down the wooden staircase, his body twisted as if he heard something behind him just before he fell. Their clothes were torn in strange, precise patterns, clean rips, almost surgical, with no sign of a struggle. But their faces, that was the detail no investigator could ever forget. Their expressions were locked in pure, unfiltered terror. Not fear, not panic, something deeper, as if their minds had witnessed something their bodies could not understand or survive. One first responder described it in his notebook as eyes wide, muscles stiff like they tried to scream but could not. There were no signs of an attacker, no illegal materials, no chemicals, no footprints except their own. It was as if something entered the home without ever touching the ground. Then came the anomaly that turned the case from unsettling to outright impossible. Initial examinations showed low but unnatural traces of radiation on their skin and clothing levels, too high to be accidental, but far too low to be from any known wartime technology in that region during 1945. One scientist wrote, "These readings do not match any equipment or material produced in this area, not from this region, not from this decade." But here's the twist. There was no radioactive site, no lost equipment, no crashed aircraft, nothing within hundreds of miles that could explain the contamination. If this incident happened 20 years later, people might have blamed experimental technology, but in 1945 there was simply no explanation. Within 72 hours, a new team arrived. They were not local police, they were not regional officials. They wore no visible badges, carried special containers, and spoke to no one. They took the bodies, they took the notes, they took every tool used during the initial investigation. They even removed the lanterns from the home. By the end of that week, the house was boarded shut and sealed with metal plates. Locals were told the area had environmental hazards caused by old wartime storage, but the villagers knew that was a lie. For 3 nights after the takeover, people living near the woods reported hearing a deep metallic echo coming from the direction of the house, something like machinery running under the floor, even though the structure had no basement. And then suddenly the sound stopped. The unmarked team vanished. The house was demolished. The land was fenced off and labeled as a restricted forestry zone. End of story, at least officially. But decades later, a small portion of the original documents resurfaced. These were pages never meant to see daylight, including one labeled Log Entry 47B. It described exposure consistent with close-range ignition of unknown energy source, and noted that the behavior of the victims suggested sensory overload, possibly induced by high-frequency wave pattern. Another page mentioned flicker marks on the interior walls around perfectly spaced burn-like spots that pulsed every few seconds during the investigation. But investigators found no machinery in the home that could have caused them. The most disturbing detail involved a pocket watch found on one of the 9. The watch had stopped at 2:19 in the morning. Yet multiple villagers reported hearing a loud metallic echo from the house at 2:23, 4 minutes after the watch froze. The investigators never explained the time gap. Did the watch stop before the event, during it, after it, or was it affected by whatever force hit that house? Years later, when researchers attempted to reopen the incident, they found the case moved to a new archive classification listed under an internal tag reading temporal activity unresolved. Temporal as in time-related. Was it just a placeholder, a mistranslation, or something literal? Some experts now believe those 9 individuals witnessed a burst of energy not meant for human perception, something experimental or possibly something not from this world. Others think the abandoned house may have been located at a rare convergence point, a place where reality thinned and something slipped through for just a moment. Whatever the event was, the human mind might not have been built to comprehend it. Today, the land remains sealed. Satellite images show nothing unusual, just snowfields, forest shadows, and an empty stretch of road that leads nowhere. But villagers who still live near the area say that on certain winter nights, when the air is sharp and silent, a faint metallic echo can still be heard from those woods, short, sharp, and impossible to ignore, just like the one heard in 1945. So the real question is not what happened to those 9 people. The real question is this: if you had stepped inside that abandoned house and whatever they saw turned its attention toward you, would you still be standing here today, or would your story be sealed away in 1945 and archived just like theirs?